Hello everyone, are you ready for another adventure? It's me, Woki, and I'm back with another Fake Grand Order video. And what are we going to be talking about today? Well, today I'm going to be talking about the SR ticket that's going to be here with the 3,000 day anniversary. And specifically trying to help anyone who maybe doesn't know who to pick. There are a lot of units to pick from. There are 109, and I was told in a previous video that they would greatly appreciate it if I helped them out. Let me pull up the specific comment. It's from Stocks Hype, who says, "Yes, please help me with the 4-star selector, bro." And I said, for you, Stocks Hype, I'm on it. So no matter what, I was going to do a video talking about this. And that's what the video is going to be today. So let's get into it, shall we? First things first, just to explain some things, the SR ticket is going to be here on the 10th when login happens. Again, time zones are a little wonky, but I'm going to have to base it off of the time zone that I'm aware of, which is PDT, which is the one I am. So it'll be here on the 10th at login, and your exchange period until you can get the ticket is until the 19th. In order to get the ticket, you just need to clear Fuyuki. And then the servant joins your party temporarily, but to get them permanent, all you need to do is get them first ascension or bond level. Get them first ascension and bond level 3 before September 30th. It's very easy. If you're not able to do that, either you started 30 minutes before the event was about to end. That's when you picked your SR, or you simply just weren't playing the game, because it's very easy. A lot of the missions are literally tied to getting this unit to bond 5 at least. So it's possible to get it done. The next thing also, if you are picking someone who is going to be an MP copy, all it does is that all those missions will be automatically considered complete, and then you will get them, and then the unit will already be permanent when you get them. It's very simple if you're getting an additional MP copy. And so next thing to talk about is that originally I wanted to make a video where I talked about all 109 units featured on the ticket. But as I was recording that video, I realized a lot of the commentary I had for a lot of these servants were, yeah, they just kind of function. Or they don't function. So I didn't think it was going to be too useful, and because the ticket is coming up so very close, and unfortunately I got super crazy busy with work, if my only job was to make Fake Grand Order videos, I swear to you, I would have gotten this video out on time of me talking about every single one of them, but because that's not my job, and I had to really lock in for a lot of the work that just suddenly came in at the last minute, it ended up being that, you know, I think it'd be better if I just did a small purposeful video, just kind of helping anyone who maybe is a little bit undecided on who to pick. And then next it comes in, who should you pick? Well, in previous videos talking about the ticket, I've always said that if you just simply pick a unit because you really like them, I don't think there will be anything wrong with that, and you'll be perfectly happy with who you pick, and you don't have to overthink it too much. But there are a couple other factors if you want to try and make it as easy as possible to you, and also try and cut down the unit selection as much as you can. Another one is trying to pick a unit that is story locked or limited. The reason being is that they are near impossible to get. For example, Salter is story locked, and it makes it extremely hard. Some people who have been playing since the beginning of the game have never gotten Salter just because they never summon on banners that feature her. She's only featured on very select banners. And if you want to try and get her in general pool, you have to summon on story. So for that reason, if you go for someone who is limited or story locked, it makes a lot of sense just because it will be easier for you and you don't have to worry about getting more copies of them later down the road. Another approach that I saw from someone is actually picking based off of how many strengthenings and interludes they have, because they can give you back a lot of Saint Quartz. For example, we'll look at Emiya because he's had a lot of them. You can see Emiya as a brand new unit that you can pick off of your ticket, and you'll be pretty happy. But if you look at Emiya in the sense of he has an interlude that gives 2 Saint Quartz, he gives another interlude, this one I believe only gives 1 Saint Quartz, and then you look at his strengthening, he gives 2 Saint Quartz from this, another one from the second strengthening, another 2 from the third, another 2 from the fourth. That already is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 11, and then you add in the 3 that you get from playing the game normal, from getting him to max ascension. That's 14 Saint Quartz from a single unit that you did not have. So if you want to try looking at units and see how many of them have quests that you could get, you could definitely pick off of that, and it's actually a pretty nice way to pick some of the older units. I did mention about how it's possible to go 7+ years and not get Salter, but I also most recently heard from someone who's been playing since day one, and they were never able to get Anne Bon and Mary Reed, which are the units that you get from that have been in the game for since pretty close to the beginning of it. So you can imagine if you pick them, you're not picking the strongest unit, but you are getting a unit that is at least giving you 3 Saint Quartz from giving them Ascension, and then they have 2 Interludes that give 3 Saint Quartz, and then you go to their Strengthenings, they've gotten 2 Strengthenings. So that is another direction that you can go with your selection choice. And then finally, if you just want a list of units that I would consider pretty good choices, I can do that. The list is always going to be very tough because a lot of the units in here, like I mentioned earlier, their power is subjective in a lot of cases, and sometimes it comes down to the master themselves. For example, me, when I last talked about the ticket, I mentioned Steno about how I don't really see her as a pick that I would personally pick. But then I heard reports back from a big Steno fan who was like saying, no, you don't understand. I've been basically using this unit from the beginning, and because of their ability to kind of go full rainbow with a lot of their stuff, and that they changed her second skill so that it can charm any one enemy, I've been using them as kind of like a pseudo support going in with Kama, who can really take advantage of the charm effects that she can give. And I was like, you know what? Fair enough, because that's a divine ally. You are giving them 20%. You are giving them 20% to attack. You're using them in a way that and 20% to quick because of combo. But you can also give it to all 3 of the stats, actually. And then charm up is a 100% chance on any enemy. It doesn't matter anything. Because originally this was just male, but they've changed that by on the second skill at least. No Phantasm is still going for insta-kill on males, but there you go. That's just one of the examples. So I can give you a list of units from all the ones that are the choices here, and I'll tell you why I like them and why you would potentially pick them, but know that a lot of this is subjective, but I want to help out the best I can, and this is one of the ways. These are for the people who are really truly like, listen man, just please tell me who to pick and I'll be happy. So here we go. So for those people, I would suggest one of 3 units. The first one is Salter, the next one is Fujino, and then the last one is Kriemhild down here. So to explain the reason why I would say that to those people, for Salter, a lot of it comes down to, I think she's just a really, really good, solid AoE saber, and a lot of people are also fans of Fate Stay Night, obviously. When you start the game, a lot of people will tell you on your 5-star ticket to pick Waver and kind of go from there, but I found that a lot of Saber fans will say to themselves, man, it would just be I really just want to pick Saber. And Saber is really good, but so many people are telling me to pick Waver. Do I just go with them and just kind of go from there? I'll say that at least if you pick Salter, you will still have a really good AoE version of Saber on your side that you can kind of go through for the early story events. And she'll be able to transition very well into a Buster Loop type of meta team when you get to that point. But at the beginning part of it, a lot of it comes down to, it's just Saber, man. It's Saber. She's really solid post strengthenings, and she also gets this costume dress, which is enough for most people to go, oh, hell yeah. Plus, combine that with the fact that she's story locked and kind of a pain in the ass to get. I would say for a new player, they can look at that and go like, okay, sure, I understand the reasoning from it. I'm a Saber fan. I'm going to go with it. Thank you for telling me for one of the 3. Next, Fujino, who is a collab limited unit, so also a very big pain in the ass to get. They usually, I say usually they don't get featured on very minor banners, but they do nowadays, more than they used to in the past. That doesn't make them any less hard to get, because sometimes maybe you don't like the 5-star that they're attached to when they go from there. But if you're a big fan of where Fujino comes from, it's going to be easy for you, because I think most of the time she's usually paired up with Shiki in some kind of way, Saber Shiki. But the reason I would say for her is that in early days, she is just such a wall of a unit, right? Like her 3rd skill giving her reduction, reducing own damage taken to giving herself a guts is pretty key, even if it does come at the cost of maxing your HP down by 2,000 for 3 turns. I think it ends up working out in the end. Her Noble Phantasm Strengthening does a lot of damage if you're fighting someone with super large, and also reducing their defense is really nice for, again, you're trying to take as little damage as you can. And if she's the last unit standing, a lot of the times Fujino has been able to lock in for me and just be like, I just need you to live through this, and she's been able to do that for me pretty effectively. So that's why I would say, like, hey, if you're just looking for a generically strong single target buster unit, this is your kind of girl to go down to. And plus it's another one where if you're in a scenario where you're like, well, I'm not farming, I'm not doing this, I'm actually trying to do a pretty difficult fight and I'm fighting a saber, Fujino can come in, and I think she can be pretty effective at that. Next, and the last unit that I want to talk about, is Kriemhild. The reason I find her so easy to kind of like say to a person, you should just pick her as a single target unit of choice, is because she is arts. So if you decide to go the route of going with Castoria, especially with Castoria coming up pretty soon to coincide with this celebration herself, she can be used with her pretty effectively as you wait to get someone like Berserker Castoria. And even then, if you do get Berserker Castoria, you can still, in some scenarios, assuming that they are on the same Noble Phantasm level and you've been working on your Kriemhild pretty well, she can still come in pretty handy to fight against dragons. Another thing that comes in pretty handy is that, especially for newer players, is that she's able to charge her NP by 50%. And I've talked to a lot of people who have started off in the game, and they really like units that are able to just effectively give themselves 50% NP. In the later days, like for me, I think a lot of the times I can take for granted that some of the newer players can't as easily do a full Vich loop. Like of me saying like, oh, it's easy, just get something that's 30% starting NP off of a skill, and then give them mana loading, and then go from here and do this, and you're going to be able to do all this. The person who's new doesn't fully understand that, because they're like, I don't have all the things available to me. And so having a unit that can give themselves 50% NP ends up being very good as a good crutch at the beginning when you're just starting out and you're just like, I need something like this to help me out. And I think it's very good for that. Plus the fact that this skill is tied to being able to draw away aggro from her is pretty nice, because I've said in the past, a lot of the times a problem with a Berserker is that they can get singled out pretty well and just kind of explode. And even though Arts has some nice fighting back against that, just because Castoria can give a shield, it doesn't mean that you should always rely on them. And then another nice thing that she can do on her Noble Phantasm is remove defensive buffs. There will be some fights where you'll be like, oh man, they have evade, they have invincibility, this is so annoying. You don't have to worry about that. If you don't have the CE, for example, that can give pierce invincibility, it can come in pretty handy, again, when you're a brand new player. Plus, she's just cool looking. I think that's a valid enough reason to say I would also pick them as one of them. So those are the kind of three that I would say, hey, go ahead. And they're likely different from a lot of other people's choices just because there's so many to choose from here. I heard from most recently from someone when I did the last video, they were surprised that not a lot of people, that I didn't just say, hey, just pick Herc. Because in the beginning days, that's a lot of the advice you would hear from a 4-star selector ticket. It was just, hey, pick Herc, and then you'll be pretty solid, which I still think is solid enough advice when you look at beginner players, and you just tell them, like, hey, Hercules, pick him, and you're going to be good. Again, similar to, like, my Salter argument, which is, like, he's from Fate Stay Night. He's able to be pretty effective at what he does, which is just be a wall and stand in for a lot of damage, and sometimes when you're a new player, you just need someone like that. But again, when a lot of people were saying to pick Herc, that was back in before olden days. That was like before we had a lot of the units that we have now. So even though I still think it's pretty solid advice, when I look at Berserkers, I usually say, hey, get Kriemhild. I think you'll be pretty happy on that. And yeah, that's basically it. I think if you again put a bullet in my head, no, don't do that, please. But if you're gonna put a gun to my head and say, I need help, just tell me a selection, I'd say pick between those three. And then if you say you're cocking the gun and saying just pick one, I would say, go ahead, Kriemhild. That's the one. Go ahead, leave me alone, please. I just wanted the help. Anyway, that's the end of the video, everyone. Thank you very much for watching. If you did, hopefully it was helpful in some kind of way. If you want to leave a comment as to why you are picking the 4-star that you're picking, if only because other people can see a lot of the other options and see like, oh, that's a good reason to pick them, then feel free to leave it down below. And again, if you disagree with it, I think that's perfectly fine too. I think there is a lot of different plays out here and a lot of different play styles that you can go into that you could likely argue for the end of the day which would be a top 3 pick these, but for me personally, those are the ones I'm going for. And I completely understand if someone disagrees with something I have to say. Especially because now, when I started recording these, it was like... It was 1 a.m. and I've been doing this for 2 a.m. so I'm very tired now. If you can hear from my voice, if you pay enough attention throughout the video, you'll notice that I suddenly randomly sound tired halfway into a hopefully 15-minute long video. I don't know, I have to edit this all together. But anyway, I wish y'all the best of luck in your 4-star that you select. I hope it's one that you can be proud of and be happy with. And I'm likely going to have to think about who I'm going to pick. I'm actually just going to pick the dinosaur woman. My own argument at the beginning saying, hey, check out this dinosaur was enough. I'm just going to pick the dinosaur. Because they are also a pain in the ass to get. Because they are story locked. Not story locked, they are limited because they are a collab unit. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. Bye-bye.